Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing today? So we are here for the 8th Analytics Leadership Forum. I'm excited to have our guests here. Hi, Ken. Hi, Jess. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you taking the time. Let's go to slide 2. We really want this forum to be a community-based webinar for professionals who are in data analytics. And we want to be able to network, learn, grow, talk to each other, collaborate. So every month we've been having 2 industry leaders come talk to us about what they see as trends in the industry, leadership strategies, personal career stories, anything that we think might really benefit our members. Today we have Jessica Zall. She's the Senior VP and Head of Global Marketing and Communications at Capitolis. She will talk to us about using data analytics and segmentation to drive marketing strategy. And in my conversations with her, she knows a lot about that, a lot about putting together good, robust strategies using data. Up next would be Ken Blake. He's the VP of Analytics at AMP, and he's going to talk to us about building trust with non-technical clients. Ken has a great taking these technical issues and talking to them to people who don't have that kind of background, which is always helpful in showing other people and in teaching other people the value of analytics and what data can do for them. Well, without further ado, Jess, I will hand this over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Zall. Good to meet you. I want to talk to you a little bit about using data and analytics and segmentation personalization to drive marketing strategy. I hate just talking at you for like 20 minutes. So please feel free to interrupt, ask questions along the way. We can make this interactive. I don't want to lose you just continuously talking. Obviously, we'll have questions at the end as well. Just a little bit about my background. So I joined a growing startup called Capitolis. It's in the capital market space. About a year and about 13, 14 months ago, actually. We're still in stealth mode. And what that means is we're very quiet about what we're doing from a business perspective. I mean, we're very quiet from a marketing and communications perspective. The things that are out there are very high level. So I'm not really going to talk to you about using data and analytics at Capitolis. That's eventually, my job now is to eventually build that function, to build a brand. So we're certainly not in the place where I can give you real life case studies of what we're doing at Capitolis. However, I came from a large company called Refinitiv. I don't know if you have heard of Refinitiv. It is the former financial and risk business of Thomson Reuters. I'm sure many of you have heard of Reuters and Thomson Financial and possibly Thomson Reuters. It's a very big financial technology and information services provider. And they spun off into a private company a couple of years ago and now are in the process of getting bought by another company called London Stock Exchange. And they were a competitor with Bloomberg. I'm sure everybody knows who Bloomberg is. We had it was a very big organization, 25,000 people. We had quite a large marketing organization as well. There were about, I think 250, 300 people in the marketing organization globally. I ran global marketing strategy for the firm. So I had about 15 to 20 of the most senior marketers that focused on strategy for each one of our business lines. And we worked very closely with another group in marketing called CIA, Customer Insight and Analytics. I love the name. I love the fact that they call it the CIA, and that's how they refer to themselves, which is phenomenal. Sat very closely. Learned a ton about data and analytics and how much it really drives your marketing strategy. And we'll get into this a little bit, but without data, without insight, without knowing your customer, you are not going to be able to have an effective marketing strategy and effective tactics. Data is instrumental. Just like content is king to effective marketing tactics, data is king to effective marketing strategies. So just a little bit of background. And again, I'm going to kind of walk you through, B2B marketing, data and analytics, segmentation, and personalization. Like I said, I grew up in the B2B marketing space, mainly in financial services and fintech. It's definitely different from B2C And B2B is business to business versus business to customer. So it's different type of marketing, but there are a lot of similarities, to be honest with you. And again, my current company is also B2B. So B2B marketing, what is B2B marketing? You know, B2B marketing is the B2B marketing strategy is different with B2C marketing strategies, right? So B2B is business to business. And in B2B marketing, you're really targeting the needs, the interests, and the challenges of the individuals, the roles, the personas of people who purchase for their company, right? So in essence, the company is really the customer. However, you're not necessarily talking to a company as from a marketing perspective, you're talking to the people that work for the company. B2C is business to consumer, right? And that's targeting the needs and interests and challenges of individuals who are buying for themselves. They are the customer. Examples of B2C are Target, Sephora, what else? Oftentimes like Jeep, things like those companies, right? Business to business could be Dell. It would be something like Thomson Reuters. It could be one of the big banks talking to other customers that are on the business side, like hedge funds, asset managers, et cetera. It could be software for legal firms, right? So the goods and services that you would sell to a company. B2B and B2C customers are also very different, right? So let's actually take B2C customers first, even though I have B2B customers first. B2C, just because we can all relate to that, right? So B2C, you're the consumer, right? You're seeking deals, you're seeking entertainment. Oftentimes the marketing you see is a lot more fun, right? Unfortunately, on the B2B side, the marketing is a little bit toned down. It's not as fun and quirky as you can have with B2C. Think about, you know, some of the advertisements you see for B2C, some of the email drips you get, et cetera. It's driven by emotion, right? So it's really appealing to that person's emotion. You know, I'm trying to think of an example.
Yes. Yes. Any of the any of the retail stores, any restaurants, all those fun Applebee commercials, like anything that a household is going to buy is B2C. We'll just we'll put it at that. That was, you know.
That's perfect.
Yeah. There you go.
That's perfect. Driven by emotion, you know, you're hungry, you got to eat. Ooh, this looks good. You don't always need education to make a purchase, right? You make purchases directly. You don't use a salesperson. And you are the direct buyer as the individual, and it's not always long-term. B2B, very, very different. Again, think of software. You work for a software company, a software vendor, and you're selling it to, you know, a legal firm, an accounting firm, whatever it might be. The people that you're talking to there, they're focused on return on investment. They're focused on efficiency and expertise. They're driven by logic and financial incentives. They want to be educated. They're looking for education on what's going on in the industry. What are the trends? What are the challenges? And how can they solve for them? And how have their peers solved for them and been successful?
Hey, Jess, I'm going to interrupt you here too.
Sure.
I'm going to use Home Depot. And I'm going to use Home Depot. They need people to move all their products around. They need to know what systems they have in terms of how they manage their inventory, their supply chain. They need to know how to do their credit cards. Now, all those things are B2B. But then they turn around and they go back and they need to sell. So all of our Home Depot commercials are all B2C. And that hopefully kind of puts into context what a B2B or B2C. Just putting that out there for you.
That's another excellent example, and an excellent example. God, I can't talk today. It's Friday. An excellent example of the revolving nature of B2B and B2C and how it often feeds into one another. You'll also find that in financial services firms too, where you're selling to a financial services firm and then they're in turn selling directly to their customers. So if you think of like Chase, right? You may have software vendors that are selling to JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America, who are then selling their products to the customers. So again, those B2B people that the marketer and the salespeople are trying to talk to, they want to be educated. They're used to working with account managers or salespeople. They can be a buyer. They can be a user of the product and not a buyer, and they can be an influencer. They're contract oriented. They're much longer term sales cycle, much longer term relationships. So it's a different type of marketing than you would see in B2B. It's very, very much, like I said, corporate focus. And I'm coming from more the financial services and the fintech side, just to give you a little bit of background. Okay, so I kind of want to just, for folks that are new to marketing strategy, I figured I'd kind of walk you through B2B versus B2C, where I fall in, and then walk you through, really what is marketing strategy. So in general, marketing strategy is the overall game plan for reaching your prospective customers and converting those prospective customers into loyal customers and retaining them. Okay. A marketing strategy contains a number of things, and this is where we'll start to get into the data and analytics, right? It contains your value proposition of your company and your product lines, contains your brand messaging, it contains customer and prospect data, it contains insights on the market, so themes in the market, trends in the market. It'll contain information about your consumers in terms of their personas, their behaviors. It would contain the best ways that they interact with you, their customer buyer journey, customer experience, etc. And then goals and KPIs. Your marketing strategy should always be driven by what are the business goals that we need to meet, what can marketing contribute to those business goals, and how are we going to measure that, okay? And all of that background populates the marketing strategy, which then informs the marketing plan that lays out the tactics and activities that you'll launch in order to affect that strategy and drive that revenue. Especially in today's world right now, marketing budgets are under constant scrutiny. They're always under scrutiny because a lot of people have in the past seen marketing, especially on the B2B side, as a cost center and not a revenue generator. This is very much changing with more and more companies as enterprise SaaS-based companies that are launching technology, right? And the way that people consume information now, marketing has a much bigger seat at the table instead of just branding, messaging, events, etc. They're very, very much involved in the B2B perspective in the sales funnel and driving qualified leads. However, again, in times of uncertainty, marketing budgets are always scrutinized, right? They're scrutinized more heavily, much more heavily than product sales, etc. So in order to make sure that you're utilizing your budget as best as possible, and that you're continuously advocating and justifying your budget for future years, you need to be able to make very informed, data-driven decisions on your strategy and constantly readjust it based on the performance of your strategy and those tactics throughout the year, okay? So marketing strategies, they're driven by data. They're driven by insight on the business, the market, consumer behavior, and a very thorough understanding of your target audience. What keeps them up at night? What are their pain points? How do they work? What do they want? What do they need to be successful? What are they driven by? Knowing everything as much as possible, and we'll get into the segmentation, personalization towards the end, but knowing as much as possible about your audience is going to allow for a more effective strategy because you're able to personalize your content, your marketing efforts towards them.
Hey, Jess, hold on a sec there.
Yeah.
Because that is huge between B2B and B2C. That is enormous on knowing who your clients are. How do you, it's one thing, one of the ways that companies get information on B2C is that, they have the rewards cards and things like that. You can collect information.
Yeah.
But B2B is much harder to understand what their needs are, at least from my experience and from where I've been.
You're 100% correct.
Yeah. And so my question would be, pausing on that, getting your target audience, getting the information, the data on your target audience in a B2B situation, where have you had the most success with that in terms of your own experience?
Jessica, to build on Jeff's question right now, I just wanted to add to his question. As you took the example of Target, so what I feel is that Target has millions and millions of customer information, and it's just because they record the data of the entire digital footprint of the customer, as well as they have the volume. But I don't think that's the same in the case of B2B. So how different is the data you go through when you talk about B2B, and how different is in the case of B2C? Just building on what Joseph just said.
Sure. It'll be harder for me to talk about B2C, but Joe is right. I mean, the amount of data that's available, it's actually very scary when I think about it. The amount of data that's available for companies marketing to us is just, it's so vast and it's so deep. They know so much about us, which, I mean, I think about all of the content that I get, right? So I love shopping at Anthropologie and I love shopping at Sephora, and I get so many very personalized things. They know exactly what I bought last time. So take Sephora, for example. They know exactly what I bought, how long it will take me to use it based off of when I bought it a second time. And they're constantly sending me marketing pieces, whether it's an in-app message, on the Sephora app, or whether it's an email, hey, you're running out of this Sunday Riley, retinol cream, or whatever it might be. And it's amazing, because then I'm like, all right, I have to go and buy it. I have to replenish it. I must be close to being out. It's just amazing, the power of marketing on the B2C side. B2B is much different, and it's much harder. So let's take, for example, when I was at Refinitiv, right? One of the businesses my team ran was for trading. And the people that we're talking to there are heads of trading, heads of prime brokerage, traders. So people that, think of mostly men that are on their computer, tied to, they've got 5 different screens in front of them. They're working furiously from 9 to 4:30. They're studying before and after what's going on in the market. So they're just glued to about 50 screens, a phone, and a computer, right? Those are the types of people that you're talking to. And it's very difficult to get a lot of data on that. So Refinitiv, luckily, I mean, Refinitiv was a huge company, right? So we sat on so much data in terms of our existing clients. So really trying to get as clean of data as possible in our CRM. We took a couple of years and really had to clean out our CRM of Salesforce, because a lot of the data in there was a mess, and garbage in, garbage out. You're only as good as the data that you have, right? And your marketing is only effective as that data that's in your warehouse, right? So making sure that you are sitting on clean, robust data, and that's telling you as much as possible about your current clients, right? Because that will affect cross-sell, upsell, and client retention, right? Because you want to make sure you're sending the right message to the right people at the right time, and your marketing applies to them. And you can also understand what they're focused on, when their contracts are up for renewal, et cetera, et cetera. So making sure, number one, that internal system, that in-house data is as populated as much as possible from a CRM. Marrying that then with your marketing tech stack, right? So we had a very, very large marketing technology stack that had, social media sentiment and monitoring. It monitored that, it scraped the web. We had a very, very technical web, not a technical website, but a very, we got a lot of information for our website. It was, if I look at my website now, it's just put up in WordPress. It barely tracks anything. Needs a lot of work there. The website that we had and all of the monitoring that we were doing with that, understanding where country, who was coming from where, their IP address, getting them to start to take action, fill in a little bit of information here and there, and continuously capturing that and building that up, right? So marrying all of that prospect data that you're gathering from different sources, generating leads and social media events, et cetera, marrying that in your marketing automation platform or your marketing technology stack with the customer data in your CRM, as well as appending data. So, we would buy a lot of data in terms of the companies that we were targeting and, the roles that we were targeting and where they kind of focused, right? So you can get some of that from, like, I think we got Dun & Bradstreet, and there was another company that I can't remember, but we would try and get a lot of market data on the companies that we were doing business. Maybe not necessarily all of the individuals, because that's very difficult to get, but the companies. So let's just say in my old role at Refinitiv, I wanted to pull a list to go after small to medium-sized hedge funds, right? With the data that we would append in our system, I would be able to say, okay, I want a range of assets under management. Let's go from 50,000, I'm making stuff up here, to 5 million. Pull me all of the firms that have that information, all of the firms that have this role, all of the firms that focus on these products. So our CIA group, I love to say that, our customer insight and analytics group really focused on making sure that we had robust data. I think I probably digressed from the original question, Joe. I'm sorry. I started to get excited about that. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah.
How did we manage the data?
Yeah, just kind of, how do you, because I was going to go on. I thought that was good. I did want to mention that we are running, you have about 10 minutes left, 5 minutes, somewhere in there.
Let's plow through it.
Yep.
I can talk forever. I'm really sorry. I get excited about this. All right, let me try and plow through this. So, like I said, why use marketing data? And I think I've kind of talked a lot about this already. The most successful brands today depend on data-driven consumer and market insights, right? It sheds light on your overall brand health. So that's another source of data that we would have in terms of what does the market perceive of us? What do our customers perceive of us? Where do we need to improve? What are they looking for? It helps inform marketing and product strategies, right? What works, what doesn't, again, what people are looking for. We help understand our customers and prospects, monitor the competition, and grow our revenue, right? According to Forrester, actually, there's a large percentage of brands that have scored high on being, data-driven, that actually show a 10% or higher revenue than the competition. So it shows you that, really having good data and using data-driven strategies can increase your revenue because you're not saturating the market with a bunch of nonsense. You're targeting the right people, the right time. You are, you're honing in on kind of what works. So I think I talked a little bit about this already, how marketing data really helps fine tune your marketing strategy. You want to always make sure that you are constantly paying attention to the data in terms of who you're targeting, what's working, the insights on what tips people over the scale to move from a cold lead to a warm lead to a hot lead, or to the various stages of the sales funnel. You want to understand also from a data perspective, like how people are behaving from digitally on the website, on social, etc. It's all going to allow you to then readjust, whether it's readjust what you're spending on a certain tactic, or readjust your strategy, or readjust even product development, things along those lines. Data drives your strategy, which then will allow you, and then data is throughout that whole cycle, because then it'll allow you to constantly monitor and tweak as you needed, right? I think we kind of talked about this. It's really, I just mentioned this. It's data and analytics should be involved at absolutely every stage of the marketing process and throughout every stage of the marketing funnel. Again, to see what's working and adjust as needed, right? Optimize campaigns, help reduce your costs, where the right places to spend are, maximize your return on investment. Helps to prevent errors as well. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. Clean data is king. Helps you anticipate market needs as well. Improve customer experience, because you really know your customer. Think of what I said about before, Sephora telling me that I need to buy that new retinol oil. And again, strategic shifts in setting, and meeting audience needs.
Hey, one more thing, Jess. I want to go back to that, if you will. And Ken has mentioned this too in the past, and it's my experience. These are all different areas where you use marketing, but in each one of these areas, from the beginning, inception of the idea, analytics should be involved. The data should be involved. It shouldn't come along, oh, we're going to get our campaign strategy. We're going to go after these people. We're going to give them this thing. And then, oh, let's bring analytics to help us plan what it's supposed to be. You can't do that, because then you've kind of put the cart before the horse. So I just want to kind of make that note as well.
150%.
And just to add to that, Joe, I think the last time I spoke in this forum, I talked a lot about that analytics is often seen as the measurement people who on the back end come in and tell you what worked and what didn't work. But when you approach it that way, analytics, essentially you're analyzing and measuring something that is not optimized by definition, because you're not using data up front. So that's just a critical piece. And that's true for B2B, B2C. It's true across the board that analytics should be seen as an insight provider beyond just being just a measurement provider.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So at Refinitiv, we thought
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But what if you are introducing a new product or a completely new innovation in the market and you do not have sufficient data on it? I mean, how would you approach this problem?
I'll take that one. So what you want to do is you would end up, you still want analytics in the beginning stages, in all the stages. And what the tactics there, some of the methodologies would be to use similar products or use similar launches, or there'd be some analogies that the analytics team, if they're good and if they know what they're doing, they could still give you some of that insight and they could help guide you. It wouldn't be statistically significant and all that, but it would be directional. And that's really good to get it started. And then they would also help you to understand what data you need to collect. So one of the benefits of analytics is that they can come in, they can say, look, here's what we suggest, but if you really want to go in this direction, here's what you need to do. And then they work with marketing to put out those campaigns to get the data, so that then the next round marketing has the answers that they need. So that's why analytics needs to be brought in so early.
Thanks,
yeah,
Joseph.
that's a great point. That's a great point too. You know, like I said, we did not launch a strategy unless two things were done, right? So our marketing strategies for the year were driven by actually three things. The overall corporate strategy. So before you can even create a marketing strategy, you have to make sure that your company strategy is set and agreed, and that your product line strategy is set and agreed, right? Those two things, crucial. And that includes, you know, your revenue goals that you want to make, right? Or you want to meet. The third thing is the data and analytics, the insights of what's going on in the market, what your consumers are doing, what your white space availability is, what your, you know, cross-sell, upsell opportunity is, what your database looks like. Those three things need to be done before you do your marketing strategy, because they feed and drive in that marketing strategy. When a marketing strategy is done as a silo and without any of that, it is not going to be effective. We had very, very, very effective and highly measured strategies at Refinitiv that yielded about 20% increase in revenue for, you know, we were responsible for driving about 20% of revenue of the company, which is really, really good for, you know, a B2B enterprise SaaS company. The other thing too is the exact same thing, we were constantly launching new products at Refinitiv as well. And Joe made an excellent point. I mean, analytics, our CIA group was a part of that process with the product and the business line before we actually did anything from a marketing perspective to really understand what that opportunity was from again, a white space, a cross-sell and an upsell opportunity, what other launches look like, what other companies were doing, heavy insight into competitive intelligence as well. That's another thing that the CIA group does, is very much on competitive intelligence, which again feeds into your marketing strategy. So I'm not gonna go too much into this. This is really, we've talked about it. You know, you got to measure. You've got to have concrete goals. You have to have strong KPIs, right? And you've got to be able to measure and meet those in order to justify future budgets, but also to make sure that things are working, right? So this is where, again, analytics comes out throughout every stage of the pipeline. I put an example in there of you know, analytics for an email campaign and what we measure, but I'm not going to bother getting into that. The other thing that I was just going to talk about where data and analytics come in as well is segmentation, right? Segmentation is very, very key. Again, I talked a little bit about personalization, you know, in terms of the B2C, how Sephora knows me and wants me to buy that $80 retinol oil, which I'm not going to buy, FYI. Maybe I will. But it's very effective because it's the right message to the right person at the right time. So segmentation is really, again, breaking down that customer base into small subsets of individuals and roles that have common needs and priorities, right? Because you don't want to send blanket messages to people. You want it to be the right message to the right person at the right time, right? And, you know, I give a couple of points of how you know, different types of segmentation by geography, you know, demographics, et cetera. But again, to segment, you have to have clean, robust data. It is absolutely important. And you need to know that customer, right? Again, I've already hit home on this. What segmentation helps you do: deliver the relevant brand message to the right audience, simplify the engagement process, inform sales, you know, for a more client-centric approach, right? So you don't just want to send lob over a whole ton of leads to the sales. They hear, go for it, right? They want to know as much as possible about that audience, and they want to know, you know, what was the message, you know, what's their background. So the more that you can provide to sales, the easier it will be for them to take that on that sales and customer journey. So again, we're talking about this. Why is it important? Personalized content and experience, much more effective than traditional marketing. Know your customer. All right. Again, there was another statistic from one of the email platforms that basically said, you know, when you do a blanket marketing message or marketing email, not very effective. When you actually start to segment it and you give different messages to different people, even if it's for the same product, everybody may use it a different way. Segmentation can yield, in this case, you know, about 760% increase in revenue. Now that's, you know, one email campaign, you know, so I would never say that segmentation is going to give me a 760% increase in revenue, but as you can see, bumps it up, right? We talked a little bit about the different types of segmentation as well. And then I'll just close talking about marketing technology. Like I said, having the right data, enough data, and clean data is absolutely instrumental. Having the right team in place that understands how to interpret that data and manage that data is instrumental. Having buy-in from your senior management that they value data and they understand that data drives the business is instrumental. And then having the right technology stack in place to be able to manage and optimize and view that data is also instrumental. So that was one of the benefits at Refinitiv. We had, I think it was about a 20-25 person strong customer insight and analytics team that had to utilize a very, very robust technology stack. And it was something that we did very, very well. And it took us a while to get there. But the last couple of years at Refinitiv, we got there, and we really saw a big increase in our qualified leads and the revenue that we were generating. And it would justify marketing spend, it would justify resources, it would justify new technology, and it would continuously give us higher goals to reach every year. And that's all I have. Any questions? No other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I like the way you segmented the market. Thank you very much.
I wanted to, I like your overview. I liked how you ended with the technology as necessary to drive that. A lot of times we think of analytics and we don't think of the data engineering that needs to happen behind it. You mentioned clean data several times. Well, if you don't have a good technology stack, if you can't collect the data, if you can't clean the data, then you're not going to have that available for use. So yeah. I think you did a great job and a nice overview here, Jess. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Happy.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Ken, you are up next, my friend.